The last civilized day. The Kthani bombardment fleet arrived at New Providence exactly on schedule, 14 hours before dawn, as dictated by Article 7 of the Covenant of Civilized Warfare. They broadcast their intentions on all frequencies in 17 languages, with full legal documentation. Ambassador Elena Vasquez watched the feeds from Earth, her hands trembling around a glass of whiskey she couldn't drink. "They're giving us the full 24 hours notice," her aide whispered. That's more than the minimum required." Elena's laugh was hollow. "How civilized of them." On the screen, the Kthani adjudicator's translated voice was calm, almost gentle. "By authority of Covenant Articles 18 through 19, the human colony of New Providence is hereby designated as forfeit territory, following humanity's failure to meet tribute obligations under the Keleth Accords. All residents have been notified. Evacuation protocols are in effect. The Kthani Empire regrets this necessity. 2,100,000 souls. They had 24 hours to evacuate to nowhere." New Providence was 3 weeks from the nearest human world by conventional drive. The colony had exactly 12 transport ships capable of carrying maybe 15,000 people total. "Regrets?" Elena said softly. "They regret the necessity." Her aide, a young man named Marcus, no relation to the general, though she joked about it once, cleared his throat. "Ambassador, the Security Council is convening in 10 minutes. They'll want to know if the Kthani will accept an emergency arbitration request." Elena finally took a drink. The whiskey burned, but not enough. "They won't. We already checked 3 times. The legal framework is airtight. We missed the tribute payment by 6 days due to the Valen blockade, and the Kthani filed their claim within the prescribed window. Under Covenant law, they have every right to sterilize an entire goddamn planet. But the Valen blockade was illegal, was it?" Elena turned to face him, and he flinched at whatever he saw in her eyes. The Valen claimed salvage rights under Article 23 after the freighter collision. They filed in triplicate. Their documentation was accepted by the Covenant Registry. So technically their blockade was legal, which means our tribute was late, which means New Providence is forfeit. She pulled up the live feed from the colony. Dawn was breaking over New Providence City, a beautiful dawn, she noted distantly. Pink and gold over the terraformed valleys where humans had spent 30 years building homes, schools, hospitals, where children were playing in parks whose trees they'd planted as saplings. 24 hours from now, those parks would be molten glass. "Get me General Chen," she said quietly. "And Admiral Park. Not through official channels, use the private line." Marcus hesitated. "Ambassador, if you're thinking..." "I'm not thinking anything yet, but I want them standing by when I start." General Marcus Chen received the call in his office at Forward Base Kepler, where he'd been reviewing tactical assessments that suddenly felt like ancient history. He was a compact man, 53 years old, with graying temples and the sort of weathered face that came from spending more time in combat zones than conference rooms. "Elena," he said by way of greeting. "I'm watching the feeds. Can we fight them?" No preamble, no diplomatic hedging. That was Elena. Once she made up her mind to ask a question, she asked it clean. Chen pulled up his tactical display. "Legally? No. The Covenant forbids intervention in lawful forfeitures. If we deploy forces, we'll be in violation of..." "I didn't ask if we could fight them legally, Marcus. I asked if we could fight them." A long pause. Chen studied the display. 4 Kthani dreadnoughts, 8 cruisers, full bombardment complement. Heavy but not insurmountable. Humanity's nearest battle group was the 3rd Fleet, currently on patrol 3 days away. "We could bloody them," he said carefully. "Maybe delay the bombardment, buy time for more evacuations. But we'd lose ships, probably a lot of them. And then the Covenant would designate us as rogue actors. Every species in the galaxy would have legal authority to sanction Earth. Earth, which currently has a population of 11 billion. Yes." Another pause. Chen could hear something in the background on Elena's end. Raised voices, someone crying. The Security Council meeting, probably falling apart in real time. "What if we didn't fight them head on?" Elena asked. "What if we fought them wrong?" Chen felt something shift in his chest, a sensation he hadn't felt since his days as a young officer in the Martian uprising. Before humanity had joined the Covenant and learned to war properly. Define wrong. "I'm going to loop in Admiral Park. Hold the line." Admiral James Park was aboard the dreadnought Indomitable, running combat drills that now felt like a sick joke. drills in proper formation, proper engagement range, proper challenge protocols. Everything proper, everything civilized, everything designed to make sure warfare remained a gentleman's game. He was a tall man, 61, with iron-gray hair and a reputation for being absolutely unflappable. His crew called him the glacier behind his back, a compliment. Mostly. When Elena's face appeared on his private screen alongside General Chen's, Park dismissed his bridge crew with a gesture. "Ambassador, General." "James," Elena said, "how much do you remember about pre-Covenant warfare?" Park's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened. "Ancient history, Ambassador. We've been Covenant signatories for 60 years. Everything before that is classified as barbaric-era tactics and officially deprecated." "That's not what I asked." Park smiled, a thin, dangerous expression. "I remember enough. My grandfather was at the siege of Titan, before we knew better. Before we learned to die politely, you mean?" "Some would say that, yes." Elena leaned forward. "The Cathani are going to kill 2 million people tomorrow. Legally. Following every rule, filing every form, checking every box. And we're going to let them because we're too civilized to break the rules that protect their genocide." "Ambassador," Chen started. "No. Listen, both of you." Her voice was steel now. "I've spent 15 years in the diplomatic corps. I've negotiated treaties, settled disputes, played by every rule in the book. And I just watched those rules be used to legalize mass murder. So I'm done. I'm done being civilized while our people burn." Park and Chen exchanged glances across the quantum link. "What are you proposing?" Park asked carefully. "I'm proposing that we save New Providence, not by requesting arbitration or filing counterclaims or any of that bureaucratic bullshit. I'm proposing that we fight. Really fight. The way humans fought before we joined the Covenant and learned to make war. Clean. The Security Council will never authorize," Chen began. "I'm not asking the Security Council. I'm asking you. 2 questions, gentlemen. First, can we win? Second, are you willing to find out?" Chen pulled up his tactical display again, but this time he wasn't looking at it through the lens of Covenant warfare. He was looking at it the way his instructors at the War College had taught him not to look at battles. Asymmetrically, unpredictably, with every dirty trick that civilized warfare had declared off limits. "If we ignore the rules of engagement," he said slowly, "if we stop telegraphing our movements and fighting in formation and respecting rest cycles and all the other theatrical bullshit the Covenant demands, yes, we could win. The Cathani have 4 times our firepower, but they're expecting a certain kind of fight. If we give them something else, we'd be designated war criminals," Park added. "Every human world would be subject to sanctions, possibly military action. Earth itself could be declared forfeit." "Earth could be declared forfeit anyway," Elena shot back. "If we let the Cathani burn New Providence, what message does that send? That humanity accepts the rules of a system that calls our extermination legal? That we'll die quietly as long as the paperwork is in order?" Silence on the line. In that silence, 3 people made a decision that would reshape the galaxy. "I'll need 6 hours to reposition the 3rd Fleet," Park said finally, "and I'll need to do it without alerting Covenant monitoring stations. That means going dark. I can have 2 armor divisions ready to deploy in 4 hours," Chen added. "No official orders, no paper trail, just equipment malfunctions and training exercises that happen to put us in position." Elena nodded slowly. "Then here's what we do. I'm going to file a formal protest with the Covenant Registry. All above board, completely legal and completely pointless. It'll keep them busy shuffling papers while you 2 get into position. When the Cathani begin their bombardment tomorrow, we hit them," Park finished. "Not the way they expect. Not the way the Covenant mandates. We hit them fast, hit them hard, and we don't stop until New Providence is secure or we're all dead." "War crimes," Chen said, almost wonderingly. "We're talking about committing wholesale war crimes." "No," Elena corrected. "We're talking about saving 2 million lives using methods that the powerful declared crimes, because those methods actually work. The Cathani are about to commit genocide legally. We're going to commit survival illegally. I know which one I can live with." She paused, then added quietly, "Last chance, gentlemen. Walk away now and I'll find another way. Stay and we burn every bridge humanity has built with the Covenant. There's no coming back from this." Neither man moved. "Good," Elena said. "Then let's show the galaxy what human warfare actually looks like. Not the civilized version. The one that wins is 22 hours later, as the Cathani fleet moved into bombardment formation over New Providence, Admiral James Park's Third Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at what the Covenant designated as improper engagement distance, 3,000 kilometers closer than regulations permitted, inside the Cathani shield's optimal firing arc. The first the Cathani knew of humanity's arrival was when their flagship's reactor went critical, breached by a spread of kinetic torpedoes that violated every rule of honorable engagement by targeting infrastructure instead of weapons. General Chen's words echoed across the fleet's private channel as the battle began. Weapons free. No prisoners, no quarter, no rules. Just win. The covenant of civilized warfare shattered that day over a planet called New Providence. Humanity had just declared war on the concept of civilized war itself. And the galaxy, watching in horror, realized it had no idea what that meant. Aftermath. The Cathani flagship. Righteous. Verdict died in 7 minutes. Admiral Park watched from the bridge of Indomitable as the Dreadnought, a vessel that had survived 43 civilized engagements without a scratch, simply came apart. No dramatic explosion, no heroic last stand, just systematic destruction as human railguns punched through shields that were designed to repel frontal assaults, not close-range ambushes from improper vectors. Flagship destroyed, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen reported. No relation to the general, but Park was beginning to think humanity's Chens had a genetic predisposition for warfare. 3 cruisers crippled. The remaining vessels are... Sir, they're not returning fire. Explain. They're broadcasting surrender terms on diplomatic channels, requesting formal parley under Covenant article. Denied, Park said flatly. Target their engines. I want them dead in space, not dead. Not yet. Sarah turned from her console, eyes wide. Sir, if they're surrendering... They're not surrendering. They're stalling while they figure out what the hell we just did. Park pulled up the tactical display. Covenant protocol says we're supposed to accept their surrender request, cease fire, and begin a formal negotiation period lasting no less than 6 hours. 6 hours they'll use to call for reinforcements while we're legally obligated to sit here with our thumbs up our asses. He leaned forward. But we're not playing by Covenant rules anymore, Commander. So we're going to do something the Cathani have never seen in 600 years of civilized warfare. We're going to press our advantage. Admiral, his XO, Commander David Park, yes, another one, interjected carefully. If we refuse their surrender and continue attacking, we'll be in violation of every single article of the Covenant. I know, Park's voice was ice. Fire. General Marcus Chen watched the orbital battle from the surface of New Providence, where his rapid deployment teams had landed 17 minutes earlier, 3 hours before any civilized assault would have touched ground, and without the mandatory announcement period. His combat armor's HUD lit up with alerts as Cathani ground forces scrambled to respond to an attack they'd been assured was legally impossible. 2nd Battalion, you have those anti-air emplacements? Neutralized, sir. They were unmanned. Cathani doctrine apparently doesn't require active crews during negotiation periods. Chen felt a cold smile cross his face. Of course it doesn't. Why would you need active defenses during a legal bombardment? Target their command posts, all of them simultaneously. Sir, simultaneous strikes violate the... I'm aware. Major, do it anyway. The Cathani ground commander, a 4-armed reptilian whose name Chen's translator rendered as Honorable Kelseth, opened a comm channel 30 seconds later. His voice was bewildered, almost plaintive. Human commander, you are attacking during a surrender negotiation. This is not done. You must cease fire and allow proper protocols to... No. Silence. Chen could practically hear the alien's brain breaking. I do not understand. You have accepted our surrender broadcast. Covenant law requires I didn't accept anything. You broadcast terms. I denied them. And now I'm continuing to kill your soldiers until you stop being a threat to the 2 million civilians you came here to murder. But that's not... You cannot simply watch me. Chen cut the channel and opened the tactical net. All units, the Cathani are confused. Exploit that. They've trained for warfare as a series of formal exchanges. Challenge, response, engagement, pause, negotiation. They have no doctrine for continuous assault. So we keep hitting them without pause. No rest periods, no formal challenges. We make them understand that this is not a duel. This is extermination. General, Captain Rodriguez said quietly. Those are harsh words. The Kthani came here to sterilize a planet. I'm just using the honest term for what we're doing in return. The only difference is we're doing it to their military, not their civilians. Somehow I think I can live with that distinction. 6 hours into the battle, the Kthani fleet attempted a formal withdrawal under Article XLV, the honorable retreat, clause that guaranteed safe passage to any force that had suffered 30% casualties. Admiral Park responded by targeting their engines. Sir, Commander Sarah Chen protested. They're retreating. Under Covenant law, they'd regroup, reinforce, and return to finish what they started, Park interrupted. Except this time they'd bring enough firepower to overwhelm us because we'd let them go like idiots. No. The Kthani came here to kill 2 million people. They don't get to leave with a slap on the wrist just because they followed the paperwork. He pulled up the fleet-wide channel. All ships, the enemy is attempting withdrawal. Pursuit is authorized. I want every Kthani vessel crippled or destroyed before they reach hyperspace jump distance. No exceptions. The Kthani commander, now aboard the cruiser Lawful Conquest after his flagship's destruction, broadcast on all frequencies. This is Commander Rathkel of the Kthani Imperial Fleet, to all Covenant monitoring stations. I am formally declaring the human species as rogue actors under Article L7. They have violated. The commander's translator seemed to struggle with the sheer number of infractions, all articles of civilized warfare. Request immediate Covenant intervention and designation of humanity as barbaric actors subject to total warfare provisions. Park let him finish, then opened his own broadcast, not to the Kthani, but to every Covenant monitoring station in range. This is Admiral James Park of the Human Defense Fleet. The Kthani came to New Providence to legally exterminate 2 million civilians. We stopped them using methods your Covenant designates as barbaric. If saving our people makes us barbarians, then I embrace that title. And I invite any species that disagrees to come try explaining civilized genocide to the orphans, who would have been created by your precious rules. He closed the channel and turned to his bridge crew. Every eye was on him, some horrified, some awed, all uncertain. Here's the truth, Park said quietly. In the next 72 hours, the Covenant will declare us rogue. Earth will face sanctions, possibly military intervention. Our careers are over. We'll probably be tried for war crimes by our own government, if we're not executed by theirs first. He paused. But 2 million people are going to wake up tomorrow on New Providence. 2 million souls who would have been ash if we'd played by the rules. So when the tribunals come, and they will come, I want you all to remember that. We didn't start a war today. We stopped a massacre. The rest is just politics, Commander Sarah Chen straightened. Orders, sir? Finish them. Then we prepare for whatever comes next. The message, the last Kthani ship, the cruiser Lawful Conquest, limping on backup engines, reached hyperspace jump distance 12 hours after the battle began. Admiral Park let it go. Sir? Commander David Park questioned. Let them run, the Admiral said. We need witnesses. The Covenant needs to see what happened here, needs to understand that humanity isn't asking for a rule change. We're declaring the entire game null and void. General Chen's voice crackled over the command channel from the surface. Orbital space secured? Secured. New Providence is safe. Casualties. 47 dead, 112 wounded. The Kthani lost. Chen paused. All of them. Everyone who didn't make it to that last cruiser. It wasn't even a battle, James. It was a slaughter. A slaughter they came here to commit. We just reversed the target, I know. Doesn't make it sit easier, Park understood. The battle had been so one-sided it barely qualified as combat. The Kthani had trained for warfare as formal theater. Predictable moves, expected counter-moves, everything choreographed by 600 years of tradition. Humanity had hit them with something they had no framework to understand. Unrelenting, unpredictable. Total warfare. It was like watching lions fight sheep who'd forgotten they had teeth. Ambassador Vasquez is on approach, Sarah reported. She's requesting permission to dock. Granted. Have her meet me in the war room, and get me a secure channel to Earth. This is going to get very loud very fast. Elena Vasquez arrived looking like she'd aged a decade in 24 hours. She probably had in all the ways that mattered. 2,100,000, she said without preamble. That's how many people are still alive on New Providence. People who should be dead according to the Covenant's civilized rules. Instead, they're having breakfast and wondering why their scheduled apocalypse was interrupted. She collapsed into a chair. Earth is losing its mind. The Security Council is in emergency session. The Secretary General is preparing a formal disavowal of our actions. Half of them want to hand us over to the Covenant for trial. The other half want to pin medals on us and dare anyone to object. And you? Chen asked. Elena laughed, a brittle sound. I'm wondering if I just ended humanity's place in galactic civilization or saved it. Possibly both. The Covenant will respond, Park said. The question is how? Sanctions, blockade? Full military intervention? All of the above, probably. Elena pulled up a holographic display. I've been monitoring Covenant channels. 37 species have already filed formal protests. The Cathani are demanding our immediate expulsion and, this is rich, reparations for their lost ships. The Velan are calling us a cancer on civilized space. The Jrel are proposing a quarantine of all human worlds until we can be re-educated in proper warfare. Let them try, Chen growled. They will, Marcus. That's the problem. We just demonstrated that humanity doesn't need overwhelming firepower to win. We need creativity, unpredictability, and a willingness to ignore rules designed to protect the strong. Every empire in the Covenant just watched us dissect a force 4 times our size without breaking a sweat. They're terrified. Good, Park said. Fear keeps you alive. Elena shook her head. You're not understanding. They're not afraid of our ships or our soldiers. They're afraid of our thinking. For 600 years, the Covenant has made warfare predictable, manageable, controlled. They turned war into a regulated industry where the powerful stay powerful, because everyone plays by rules that favor size and resources. We just proved that all their advantages mean nothing if your opponent refuses to follow the script. She pulled up tactical footage from the battle. Look at this. The Cathani fleet had quadruple our firepower. Their shields were state-of-the-art. Their tactics were textbook perfect for Covenant warfare, and we destroyed them because we did things that weren't in their textbook. We engaged at the wrong range. We targeted inappropriate systems. We refused surrender protocols. We pursued a retreating enemy. Every single action violated Covenant doctrine, and every single action worked. So they'll adapt, Chen said. Learn to fight dirty. Will they? Elena challenged. The Covenant has been fighting clean for 6 centuries. Their entire military-industrial complex, their strategic doctrine, their officer training, all of it assumes warfare follows the rules. You don't just unlearn that overnight. It's not about tactics, Marcus. It's about mindset. The Covenant species have civilized themselves into military impotence. She stood, pacing. And that's why they're terrified. Not of humanity's military, of humanity's example. If we can break the rules and win, why can't anyone else? What happens to the Cathani's empire when smaller species realize they don't have to fight honorably against a larger force? What happens to the whole system when everyone figures out that civilized warfare is just a con game that keeps the powerful in power? Park felt something click into place. We didn't just win a battle. We started a revolution. Exactly. And revolutions don't end until someone wins. Elena pulled up a star map showing human space. 67 worlds scattered across one small spiral arm, surrounded by empires that controlled thousands of systems each. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and as of 12 hours ago, outlawed. The Covenant will come for us with everything they have because they can't afford to let our barbarism spread. Then we fight, Chen said simply. Against the entire Covenant? Marcus, that's 53 species, tens of thousands of worlds. Fleet strength in the millions, all trained to fight by rules we're going to ignore. Chen pulled up his own tactical displays. Elena, you said it yourself. They've civilized themselves into weakness. They've spent 600 years optimizing warfare for everything except winning. Meanwhile, humans remember how to fight dirty. It's in our history, our DNA. We spent 10,000 years perfecting warfare before we even left Earth. That's not exactly something to be proud of, Elena said quietly. No, but it might be what keeps us alive. Park had been studying the star map, his expression thoughtful. Elena, you've been in diplomatic circles for 15 years. You know these species, their politics, their internal pressures. Question, how unified is the Covenant actually? Elena frowned. What do you mean? The Covenant presents as monolithic. One big happy family of civilized species all following the same rules. But empires don't work that way. There must be factions, rivalries, species that barely tolerate each other, but pretend to be friends because the system benefits them. Of course there are. The Cathani and Velan have been in a Cold War for decades. only kept in check by covenant arbitration. The Jirel resent the Kthani's dominance of the inner council. The Mevesh think the whole system is weighted against species with non-carbon biology. There are dozens of fault lines. And we just drove a wedge into every single one of them, Park said. Think about it. The smaller species in the Covenant, the ones without huge fleets or resource-rich empires, they just watched humanity take down a major power using tactics they could replicate. How long before someone decides to test those tactics themselves? Elena's eyes widened. You want to fracture the Covenant from inside. I want to survive. Fracturing the Covenant is just how we do it. Park pulled up intelligence reports. The Mevash have been in a territorial dispute with the Kthani for 20 years. It's been going nowhere because covenant arbitration always favors the larger party, the Kthani. But what if the Mevash suddenly realize they don't have to arbitrate? What if they just take what they want using human-style tactics the Kthani aren't prepared for? That would be chaos, Elena breathed. Yes, beautiful, survivable chaos where everyone's too busy with their own wars to unite against us. Park smiled grimly. The Covenant works because everyone believes in the rules. But we just proved the rules are breakable. Now we need to convince others to break them too. Chen was nodding slowly. Asymmetric warfare on a galactic scale. We can't fight 53 species at once, but we can make sure they're fighting each other instead. This is insane, Elena said. But she was pulling up diplomatic files, her fingers flying across the holographic interface. The Valen have been looking for an excuse to challenge Kthani dominance for years. If we offered them intelligence on Kthani defensive weaknesses, vulnerabilities that only matter if you're not fighting by Covenant rules. The Jirel have 3 colony disputes pending, Park added, all stalled in arbitration because their opponents have better lawyers. But lawyers don't matter much when you stop caring about the court's opinion. And the smaller species, the ones who've been losing ground for decades because they can't compete under Covenant rules, they'll be watching all of this and wondering if maybe, just maybe, the rules aren't as unbreakable as they thought. Elena looked up from her files, something like awe on her face. You magnificent bastards. You're not starting a war. You're starting a pandemic. A conceptual plague that says the old rules don't apply anymore. And once that idea takes root, the Covenant doesn't fall, Park finished. It tears itself apart. And somewhere in the chaos, humanity finds room to survive. Silence fell over the war room. Outside, New Providence turned peacefully below them. 2 million people completely unaware that their salvation had just become the catalyst for a galactic revolution. There's a problem, Chen said finally. Actually, several. First, Earth. Our own government is already preparing to disavow us. They'll hand us over to save the rest of humanity from sanctions. So we don't give them a choice, Elena said. We go public. Full disclosure of what the Kthani tried to do, what we did to stop them, and why the Covenant's rules are designed to enable atrocities. We make it politically impossible for Earth to condemn us without condemning themselves. Second problem, Park added. The Covenant will send ships. Lots of them. And eventually, even fighting dirty won't be enough against sheer numbers. Then we make sure they never get to send those ships. Chen pulled up strategic maps. Hit and run, sabotage, insurgency. We make ourselves too expensive to fight. The Covenant species are used to quick, decisive, clean wars. We give them a grinding nightmare that costs more every day. Eventually, someone will decide we're not worth the trouble. That could take years, Elena said. Yes. Which brings us to the third problem. Park's expression was grim. Everything we're discussing, fracturing the Covenant, spreading asymmetric warfare, turning the galaxy into a free-for-all, it will cost lives. Millions of lives. Maybe billions. Species that have been at peace for centuries will go back to killing each other, all because we decided our survival was worth breaking the system. The weight of that settled over the room like a shroud. The Kthani came here to kill 2 million people, Elena said quietly. If we'd played by the rules, they'd be dead. Everyone who's alive on New Providence right now. Every child, every parent, every person with dreams and plans and people who love them. They only exist because we broke the rules. So yes, what we're planning will destabilize the galaxy. It might cost millions of lives. But how many millions will survive because they don't have to die legally anymore? That's one hell of a rationalization, Chen said. No, it's a choice. The Covenant created a system where genocide is legal if you file the right forms. We're not the monsters for breaking that system. We're just the first ones desperate enough to try. Park stood, drawing himself to full height. Then we're agreed, we fight. Not just for New Providence or even Earth, but for a galaxy where survival doesn't require permission from bureaucrats. We show every species that's been losing under the Covenant's rules that there's another way. And if the empires want to stop us, they'll have to catch us first, Chen finished. Elena nodded slowly. Okay, then we need a message. Something that explains what we did and why. Something that can't be suppressed or spun by Covenant propaganda. And we need to get it to every species in the galaxy before Earth can silence us. I can handle the technical side, Park said. Broadcast it on all frequencies. Piggyback it on civilian traffic, make it impossible to scrub from the networks. But what do we say? Elena walked to the viewport, looking down at New Providence. Somewhere down there, in the cities and towns and farms, 2 million people were going about their lives, eating breakfast, going to work, hugging their children. Completely ordinary. Completely miraculous. We tell them the truth, she said. That civilization is a lie the powerful tell to keep everyone else in line. That honor is just another word for predictable, and predictable means vulnerable. That humanity refused to die politely, and anyone else tired of being civilized is welcome to join us. She turned back to face them. We tell them that the wolves have come to live among sheep, and it's time for the sheep to remember they have teeth.